My sister dragged me to meet her fiancé's billionaire father at the gala, laughing, "This is the quiet one." My parents added, "We don't really brag about her." The man looked at me. I went still. Then he said slowly, "Maya, I've been looking for you for 14 months. Vivian's fingers tightened around my elbow before I could answer. "I think you have the wrong Maya," she said, still smiling. Walter Crane did not look at her. A strip of blue paper showed beneath the cream folder in his hand. I knew that shade from every field drawing in my workshop. My mother, Elaine, laughed too quickly. "Our Maya repairs old buildings and makes little sketches. Vivian is the one involved with your coastal foundation." Walter opened the folder just enough for me to see a copied diagram. It showed a removable wall panel, 3 handwritten arrows, and a note beside the lower hinge. Water always takes more space than pride. My handwriting. Before I could touch the page, Vivian stepped between us. Maya has been stressed since her mentor passed. Sometimes she sees her ideas in projects she has only heard about. The insult sounded like concern. That was how Vivian worked. She could make you look unstable while pretending to protect you. Walter's expression hardened. "I would like to speak with Maya privately." "You can speak with both of us," Vivian said. "No," he replied, "I cannot." Elliot, her fiancé, crossed the room and whispered something to his father. Walter closed the folder. "Tomorrow morning," he told me, "the Harbor House, 10 o'clock, come alone." Vivian answered before I could. "She has a job site." "I can speak for myself," I said. "I'll be there." Walter nodded and walked away. The second he was gone, my mother turned on me. "What did you do?" She had seen my handwriting in his folder, yet assumed I had caused trouble. "I drew that system." Vivian rolled her eyes. "You draw hundreds of things. That does not make every flood panel yours." It had my note on it. "You write dramatic notes on everything." My father, Paul, glanced at the guests watching us. "Lower your voice." I was barely speaking. Vivian leaned close. "This is my engagement gala. You are not turning it into one of your ownership spirals." No one asked why Walter had searched for me for 14 months. My mother only smoothed Vivian's sleeve and told her not to let me ruin the evening. I left before dinner. By the time I reached my truck, my mother had written that I embarrassed Vivian, and my father said Walter was probably being polite. Vivian sent one sentence: "Please do not show up tomorrow and confuse him further." I did not answer. The drawing began almost 4 years earlier, after a storm flooded a neighborhood clinic outside Beaufort. The clinic could not afford a commercial flood system, so my mentor, Nora Bell, and I tested scrap lumber, marine hinges, and pressure releases until I built removable wall panels that could be lifted before trapped water destroyed the rooms. I called it the lift wall. Vivian visited once, claiming she needed photographs of real working women for a charity presentation. She photographed my blue field notebook and the brass house-shaped key Nora kept clipped inside it. The key opened nothing. Nora had filed it from a broken lock plate and told me, "Access is not the same as belonging." At the Harbor House, Walter sat with Elliot and engineering director Denise Mercer. Vivian arrived uninvited, carrying coffee for everyone except me. "I thought I should help explain," she said. Walter looked tired. "Sit down." Denise pushed over the folder. Inside were copied notebook pages, clinic photographs, and a grant application naming Vivian Bennett as the lift wall's creator. The application had been submitted 14 months earlier. Vivian had copied my failed tests, final measurements, and Nora's phrase about a poor woman's answer to an expensive problem. Then she signed it. "Where did you get these pages?" I asked. "You allowed me to photograph your work," she replied. "For a donor slideshow, not a grant application. You left the design sitting in a dusty shop. I gave it a future." Walter said his foundation had approved a grant, but Denise paused payment when Vivian could not explain the system. "I am not an engineer," Vivian said. "You claim to be the designer," Denise replied. Walter placed 3 unopened envelopes on the table. Each was addressed to me at my parents' house, where I had lived when I registered my business. Across the oldest envelope, in my mother's handwriting, were the words "Give to Viv." My mother had told me no important mail had arrived. Walter said his office had spent 14 months trying to reach the real creator. Vivian had collected every letter and told them I no longer wanted contact. "I was protecting the proposal from delays," she said. I stared at the copied notebook pages. "The original is locked in my workshop." Then I remembered I had not seen it in 2 weeks. Only I, Nora, and my father had ever held keys. He had insisted the family needed emergency access. Vivian watched my face too closely. I stood. "I need to check something." My workshop key dragged inside the cylinder. Once the manager let me in, I found my drafting drawer forced and badly repaired to look untouched. The blue notebook was gone. So was Nora's brass key. My father answered on the 4th call. "Did you give Vivian my workshop key?" A pause. "She needed a few items for the gala. There was no workshop display. She said Walter wanted original material." "Did you ask me? She is your sister." I did not think I needed permission to help her borrow a notebook. I looked at the damaged drawer. "You gave her access to my business without asking me. Do not make this sound criminal." I did not use that word. He ended the call. My mother arrived an hour later carrying a casserole, as if melted cheese could repair a broken lock. "Your father feels terrible that you attacked him," she said. I asked him a question. "You know how your tone can be. What tone should I use when my design notebook disappears?" She placed the casserole on my workbench. "Vivian remembers you promising she could use the material if her proposal became serious. Then she can show me the message." My mother looked away. "She is trying to build a life with Elliot. His family respects initiative. Please do not ruin that because you feel overlooked." She understood. Vivian's expensive future was simply easier to protect than mine. "You have always been talented," she added, but Vivian knows how to turn ideas into something people can see. And that makes them hers? She touched the casserole lid and said, some women create doors, Maya. Other women are smart enough to walk through them. I placed the dish back in her hands. Then she can build her own door. That afternoon, I changed every lock, removed my father as emergency contact, and told Walter the notebook was missing. I rebuilt the record from clinic invoices, a signed inspection sheet, and witnesses. Together, they narrowed the space where Vivian's lie could breathe. Then I found the first crack. The grant brochure described a reverse bite hinge, a phrase from a failed drawing. It jammed under pressure. Anyone who built the system would know it was useless. I messaged Vivian that I had found a revised version and might discuss shared credit if she returned my notebook. She answered almost immediately. Send the revision first so I can show Walter we are cooperating. I drew a convincing blue page but set the release bar half an inch too high, making wet timber bind. In the corner, I added a new sentence. Salt remembers every shortcut. 4 days later, Denise sent me a slide from Vivian's upcoming presentation to the Coastal Renewal Council. My false measurement was there. So was my sentence. Vivian was not only using stolen work, she was still taking anything I placed in front of her and calling it proof of her talent. Walter paused the grant. Vivian told relatives I was sabotaging a charitable project and told Elliot I was jealous of their wedding. By Sunday, a woman from my mother's church squeezed my hand and said, sometimes we have to let successful people carry our ideas farther than we can. My mother stood nearby and pretended not to hear. I went home and sat beside the damaged drawer. My family had understood enough all along. They simply preferred the reality that kept Vivian shining. I need to ask something because I truly wondered whether protecting myself made me cruel. If your sister took your work, your parents helped her hide it, and everyone called you jealous for asking questions, would you still keep the peace? If you believe I was right to draw a line, leave a like or tell me honestly in the comments. At that point, I needed truth from someone. The next clue came from Leah. She had seen Vivian's council announcement online and messaged, I thought that was your wall. Leah still had an old phone video of the final pressure test. It showed me fitting the release bar while Nora held the panel, then reading the final measurements from the blue notebook. The date was nearly 4 years old. The brass key was visible inside the cover. Walter's attorney said the video helped, but Vivian could still claim we had collaborated later. We needed the notebook or proof showing how she obtained it. The hallway video had expired, but the building's electronic entrance log had not. My father's contractor badge opened the building close to midnight on the night the notebook disappeared. He had told me he never went with her. I drove to my parents' house with the access report folded in my pocket. Were you at my workshop with Vivian? I asked. No. I held up the report. His face emptied. My mother appeared behind him. Paul, tell her. He stared at the floor. Vivian said the notebook was partly hers. She said you were refusing to help because you resented the wedding. So you forced my drawer? She needed the original pages before Walter's review. Where is the notebook? My mother answered. Somewhere safe. Why did you send my letters to her? She said they were duplicates. My father replied, you believed every lie because each one gave you permission to choose her. My mother's voice sharpened. Do not turn this into your childhood. You already did. I placed my father's old workshop key on the table beside the door. You will never have access to my work again. My mother stared at it. After everything we have done for you? You mean after everything you helped her take? The Coastal Renewal Council demonstration was scheduled for Friday, with Vivian still listed as featured designer. Walter wanted to cancel it. I asked him to let her present. She calls this a family misunderstanding, I said. Let the council hear what she claims when she thinks the work will make her important. Denise would ask technical questions. Walter's attorney would hold the messages, video, and access report. Vivian could correct the record beforehand. She did not. She invited my parents to sit in the front row. The morning of the demonstration, Elliot came to my workshop and noticed the new lock. I owe you an apology, he said. I believed the version that made my life easier. He told me he had seen my blue notebook in Vivian's apartment after the gala. She claimed I had given it to her as an engagement gift. Then he showed me a photograph of Vivian beside champagne. Behind her wedding folders sat my notebook, Nora's brass key hanging from its spine. The photograph was taken the night before I discovered the damaged drawer. When I asked her to return it, Elliot said, she told me you could build another one. She said losing things was the price quiet people paid for not defending them. I looked at the photograph until my eyes stopped burning. At the warehouse, contractors, reporters, donors, and neighborhood leaders surrounded the demonstration wall. Vivian moved among them like presentation and truth were the same thing. When she saw me, she smiled for the cameras and touched my arm. I am glad you came. Maybe this can be a healing moment. Present first, I said. Walter opened the event without mentioning the paused grant. Then Vivian stepped beside my design and spoke about families who could not afford traditional flood protection. I wanted to create something simple, she said, so no family would need permission from wealth to feel safe. My mother wiped her eyes. Denise asked, why was the lower release bar moved upward in the revised model? Vivian glanced at the slide behind her. The adjustment reduces drag. What happens when the timber swells? The marine channel compensates? It did not. Assistants poured water into the trough. Vivian pulled the handle. The panel lifted an inch, caught, and locked crooked. She pulled again. Nothing. Denise faced the council. This measurement came from a drawing submitted 4 days ago. It was never part of the working clinic system. Vivian looked at me. I said nothing. The council chair asked, who submitted the revision? My sister and I were exchanging ideas. Did Maya authorize its use? She sent it to me. That was not the question. Walter's attorney displayed Vivian's message asking for the drawing, followed by my request for the return of my notebook. No permission. No shared credit agreement. Vivian's voice hardened. This is a private family disagreement being staged in public. No. Walter said. This is a grant integrity review happening before the council asked to trust you. She turned to Elliot. Say something. He did. I saw Maya's notebook in your apartment. His photograph appeared on the screen. Blue cover, brass key, wedding folders, date stamp. Vivian's confidence left her face slowly. You set me up, she whispered to me. I sent you one bad measurement, I said. You chose to call it yours. Then the building access report appeared. My father's badge. The late-night entry. My father closed his eyes. Finally, Leah's video played. Wind rattled through the recording. Nora laughed off camera while I read the working measurements and tested the clinic wall under pressure. At the end, Nora's voice came through clearly. Put your name on it, Maya. Quiet work still needs an owner. I had forgotten she said that. When the video ended, Walter faced the council. The foundation is withdrawing Vivian Bennett's application. No grant funds will be released under her name. Vivian stepped away from the microphone. You are destroying a project that could help people. Denise handed me a wrench. I lowered the release bar to the measurement recorded in the old clinic file, cleared the swollen channel, and pulled the handle. The panel lifted free. I set it beside the frame. The project still helps people, I said. It just does not need her lie to exist. The clinic director confirmed I designed the system. The inspector confirmed my signed records. Denise confirmed the failed hinge came from a discarded draft. One fact after another filled the space Vivian had occupied with charm. My mother rose from the front row. Maya, we did not understand how far this had gone. I looked at her handwriting on the intercepted envelope displayed behind me. You wrote her name on my mail. She sat down. My father moved toward the aisle. I will return the notebook. You will tell me where it is. Vivian turned toward him. He spoke without looking at her. A safe deposit box at our bank. Elaine put it there after the gala. My mother stared at him as though betrayal only became wrong when it moved against her. The notebook was retrieved that afternoon. Every page remained, marked with Vivian's sticky notes. Nora's brass key was still clipped inside. The fallout came in practical pieces. The council removed Vivian. Walter canceled her consulting agreement and reclaimed the advance, and 2 nonprofits paused their work with her. Elliot postponed the wedding that day and ended the engagement a week later. I asked for no spectacle. I wanted the record corrected, the design protected, and my name restored. My father returned the notebook wrapped in a dish towel. He stood outside my workshop because his key no longer worked. I told myself I was helping both of you. He said. You helped the daughter who made you feel important. He nodded. I am sorry. I believe you feel sorry. It was not forgiveness. It was simply the truth I could give him. My mother wrote about family unity, but never used the words stole, lied, or chose. I mailed it back with one sentence. A family cannot heal around words it refuses to say. Vivian came to the workshop near the end of the month. Without an audience, she looked tired, but she was still angry. You always had the talent, she said. I had the ability to make people care. We could have built something enormous together. You could have asked. You would have said no. You never gave me the chance. She looked at the notebook on my table. Do you know what it was like growing up beside someone everyone called gifted? Everyone had called Vivian impressive and born for more. They called me difficult when I corrected facts. You were praised in every room, I said, for things that disappeared when I stopped performing. Her voice cracked. Your work stayed. Mine needed people watching. Then I understood her motive. She had not stolen the design because she thought it was small. She stole it because it was the one thing attention could not create for her. I am not giving you access to me so you can feel better about what you did, I said. Are we done? We are done until you can tell the truth without making yourself the victim of it. She waited for me to soften. I did not. I later licensed the lift wall to Crane Coastal Works while keeping ownership. Part of every contract funded installations for clinics and small businesses. I declined Walter's executive title, kept my workshop, built a testing room with Denise, and hired Leah as my first apprentice. Above the bench, we framed Nora's sentence. Quiet work still needs an owner. My parents were not invited to the first public installation under my name. When my father asked why, I told him I was no longer offering front row seats to people who helped remove me from the program. He accepted it. My mother called it punishment. I called it a locked door. Months later, after the first storm of the season, I checked the clinic. The panels lifted cleanly. The rooms behind them were dry. Children's drawings still hung in the waiting area, untouched by water. Back at the workshop, I opened the blue notebook one last time. Its pages were wrinkled where Vivian had folded them, and my mother's bank receipt rested inside the cover. I removed the receipt, closed the notebook, and clipped Nora's brass key back onto the spine. Then I placed both inside the repaired drawer and turned my new key in the lock. The old brass key had never opened a door. Mine